here we are. It's the end of 2019. Can you believe it? Did it get here too fast, or did it just take forever getting here? All full of roller coasters and heartbreaks and anger and angst and joy and fun. You know, thank goodness for our new commander-in-chief that they're trying to get rid of. And here we go. 2020 is just around the corner. Hello and thank you for watching the Sonja Schmidt Show. I am Sonja Schmidt. Thank you for tuning in here on The Range Broadcasting. You know, I used to be on Facebook, and I had the feeling that I was getting terribly shadow banned. There's so many people that I could name that kind of gave me an inspiration to get back out there and throw my voice back in the ring. So I started off by doing a show where I was sort of holding up my camera to the phone, and I was doing, to the camera. I put my phone to the camera, and I was doing my interviews like that because I really didn't know any other way, and I didn't know that this show was going to take off. And I was really happy in the beginning when I started to grow my audience. On Facebook, I went from a couple hundred to, on a great night, it would be 1,300 or 1,600 people. And I was like totally jazzed and totally stoked. And then my numbers started going down. They go up, they go down, they go. But there was nothing I could really put my finger on. People kept telling me that I was being shadow banned, or they weren't posting my shows, or they weren't allowing to share. And I was like, that's no way that could be possible because I'm so far under the radar. I just got started. I don't have a huge viewership. Why are they picking on me? I just didn't think it was possible. I get it with people who have millions and millions of views. But I decided, on the off chance that people were telling me the truth, that I would stop this whole posting on Facebook. My show has evolved from holding up the phone to the camera, and as you can see, and I was not willing to go through all this work to have Facebook, who's already virtually acknowledged that they're keeping conservatives' voices out of the ring, and they plan on doing it more in 2020. So I figured, why was I going to keep barking up this tree only to just complain about it? And that's what I saw on the internet, is a bunch of people complaining about it and almost sort of even wearing it as a badge of honor. But again, I don't like to work hard and not have it pay off. So luckily, I was picked up by a network called The Range. And what they are trying to do is create a safe space, if you will, for conservative, Christian, whatever, alternate programming than Facebook is allowing. And I know that now that I'm on The Range, I know that I was shadow banned because now I am getting tens of thousands of views. So that just shows you what Facebook does to conservatives. And somebody as low down on the totem pole as I am. And I don't say that to be self-debasing. I'm just saying I am new. I am just getting started. And the word needs to get out. So once that happens, and that's because of you all, our voices are totally going to be heard in 2020. My slogan of the show is, being an American is no longer a spectator sport. Although I'm asking that you watch my show as a spectator, I am also asking that you share the show. Word of mouth. Click that little button that says share. It ain't that hard. Keeping that in mind, I'd like to share with you the body of work that I've done in 2019. Some people ask me, what is my show? What exactly am I doing? And although I am still feeling it out, I think I'm honing in on what it is. I do interviews, I have fun, I do bits, I talk about not topics in a newsy sort of way that you get it all the time, but I try to do it in a very unique and creative way. People have said my show is fun, conservative, and infotaining. This one is a perfect example of the infotaining part. It was during the week where Kamala Harris decided that she may have to shut down her campaign because her party didn't like black women. She blamed it on her gender rather than the fact that she's a completely unlikable person that was not going to get the nominee from her party in the first place, or any other party for that matter. Anyway, my guest for that week was Denise Zamora of MAGA Girl, and we just had a little fun with it.
And now it's time for
10 things we can't stand about Kamala Harris that have nothing to do with her being black or female. All right. And I guess you've pulled the long straw, so you get to go first and go.
She slept her way to the top with Mr. Willie Brown.
Woo! That's a polite way of putting it, and it took one of mine. Okay, she's completely unlikable.
Yes. Okay. She's racist. And when I say that, it's when she held office in San Francisco, she put into state legislation for the parents with children, when their children are truant and absent from school, that the parents will get prosecuted.
Ooh. That's a good one, and you put some research behind that. Okay.
Oh, ma'am.
Okay, another reason I can't stand Kamala Harris is because she said that black people, the way that we should be able to earn money when we get out of jail is to sell weed.
Okay, so in, I believe it was 2015, she wanted to prosecute Okay, I'm getting them mixed up because I had to do my research. Now I'm getting mixed up. Okay, 2015. She wanted to, see, girl, I can't remember it. When there's criminal activity and shootings. There was shootings with the police officers, and she wanted to actually stand up for the criminals. So that's why she said that she didn't want body cams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to piggyback on one of yours. Not only did she sleep her way to the top, she slept with another woman's husband to get to the top. So in addition to having fun with my guests in studio, I also went out in the field in 2019 to give you a taste of what it's like out there on our side and the other side.
Congress and why this has been so difficult, why it took so long, and what the path looks like going forward. That is... Stop, please.
The age-old-fashioned strategy where they act like victims. Let's get some shit clear. We are here with humanity.
Fascists come around. We run them out of town. We won't stop till. Jumping pants, step down.
This woman who freely talked to others, handed out flyers, and explained what was on them.
He's saying it all day, every day, what he's going to do. So what's the debate? What's the debate?
She had no time to talk to me. Gave me no love whatsoever. What's the debate? What are you doing? What is that?
Here, do you know what this is about?
Nope. Why don't you tell me?
Here, why don't you read it?
It was one upshot. She didn't assume that I was on her side of the aisle, which liberals often do just because I'm black. You don't want to tell me?
What are you filming for?
Huh?
What are you filming for?
Myself to learn.
Oh.
Is that okay to learn? Is that okay to learn?
The best thing is to hear what people are saying on the
You're handing out the flyers. I can't learn from you.
Well, the best thing is to read.
Yet, immediately after me, after she tells me she has nothing to talk to me about, she talks to these women. Another part of my show, which I love so much, is interviewing guests. I have the most fantastic guests, so I'm going to show you some snippets and highlights of that. All right, here we go.
will assume the job of taking care of you. You do not have the power to exercise your creative agency and take care of yourself. Your communities are impotent, which is an insult to the Black community, which has
absolutely
been the benchmark of uplifting Black agency throughout slavery, throughout segregation. The story of Black entrepreneurship beginning from slavery.
Amazing, right?
Amazing through the 1920s, the Harlem Renaissance, during segregation, the story of Black entrepreneurship, the story of the way Black Americans have consistently thrived, the literacy rates of Blacks during segregation.
It's an amazing story.
Amazing story. That has all been suppressed by the far left, by a predominantly bourgeois white far left that wants to assume lordship and a managerial class lordship over Black people and tell them you're helpless victims, but you don't have to adopt a victim identity.
That's so good.
Permanently. When I came here in 1985, I'm 54, at the age of 20, I made a covenant with this country and I said, I don't want anything from Americans except one thing. Do not place any obstructions, arbitrary obstructions, in my path on behalf of my life. Do not place any obstructions that will thwart my efforts to enhance my life. I don't want any favors from you. I don't want any special favors. Just don't obstruct my efforts. Don't create any artificial laws.
Right.
Thwart my efforts to preserve my existence. Right. And what I found is that the pursuit and the struggle are just as important and just as meaningful as the outcome, because in that pursuit and in that struggle, you find bits and pieces of your humanity. When I was working 3 jobs to put myself through school, and I graduated magna cum laude at the top of my class, working as a cashier at Macy's, stuffing envelopes at a job at First Atlanta, selling magazine subscriptions, being a visa collector, working all kinds of jobs, and then rushing off to go to school full time. I found that I was the happiest person, because in that struggle, I was finding all the capacities in my soul, in my God-given soul, to be the best that I could be.
Okay, now is this something you've had background in? Is it something you dreamed up for a long time? Or did you say, okay, I got to do this for what reason did you get into this as well?
Because I joined the Navy right out of high school, and so I spent my whole adult life in the military, so service to this country is all I know. And so after getting out the military, I actually got out the military to get into politics because I wanted to add value to my community and to my country. And so it's like, what's the next step? What do you do? And it was, running for Congress. It was either Congress or President of the United States. So
okay, baby steps. Okay, just like
the best thing about it for me is people don't really like her in that area because they know what she did with Compton and Watts and South Central whenever she had it, and the condition shows. Then they gave her, the South Bay, which is a predominantly nice area, predominantly white and Hispanic area, and they're like, Jesus Christ, we know what she did with the other area now.
We don't need this. We're kind of been trained by the left that to fight against women is forbidden. And not only are you fighting against a woman, but she's Black and she's older than you. And now that I see you significantly older than you, are you concerned with how to fight back with her? And how do you plan on doing this?
Not at all. I'm not concerned with fighting back. The thing about it is, and I talk to my mother and my grandmother and a lot of people who are older who have a lot of influence in my life, and they tell me that, look, you got to understand, we know how they train you in the military. You go for broke. But she is somebody's grandmother, and I say this a lot. She's somebody's grandmother. She's someone's mother, auntie, great aunt, etc. And she also paved the way for women to get involved in politics, especially women of color. And so you can't take that away. You have to respect that. Just the fact of the matter is, she makes terrible decisions, and the condition of the district, like I said, it shows.
When I thought of doing this program, first of all, like I said, my shows come to me, they are inspired. But when I started pulling the show together, and your Facebook page was the incentive for this, I thought about asking you if you would be interested in doing, or if you'd be okay with doing, a salvation prayer for the audience who's watching this particular show. Would you? Would that be okay with you?
Oh, God, yes. I believe whenever we finish, I tell the church, don't leave until the invitation and then the benediction. You know, if you leave before that, you might have missed, because you might be the one God was talking to.
Thing is, we don't have a platform. Like, I think honestly, a conservative, right-leaning, God-and country kind of platform, like a Netflix, basically, like a conservative Netflix, would excel extremely well. I really do. I think people would drop down their $10 a month and protest alone for a lot of the pro-American stuff that Clint Eastwood would produce, and kind of classic content and things of that nature. I think people need an entertainment option, not just a news or a political.
Right.
I think that has to be a part of it, but I don't think that's all of it. Like an old NBC, to where you would run news, variety programming, sitcoms, family dramas, all that stuff.
Right. So if you're tuning in, the show is a little bit shorter tonight. So hopefully you won't miss it. But remember, you can go on the archives on my page. Go to the archives and you can watch whatever shows you want. But this is a compilation, sort of highlights of what I did in 2019, heading into 2020. All right, so that interview that you just saw, or that snippet that you just saw with John Sullivan, clearly explains why we need our own media. This is very important. This is how the left has taken such a stronghold on our society. It's through the media, it's through comedy, it's through entertainment, it's through the news, it's all of the above, it's through movies, and we don't have that going on. My next interview really, really illustrates where the left will take us, is taking us, has taken us. And if we're not diligent, this is a perfect example of where the left is willing to take our children and has already taken them. This interview is with Joe Messina of the Real Side Radio, who's also a school board member here in California. But this is not just exclusive to California. This is happening nationwide. For the year 2020, you're going to see more of this topic from me, not just on my show, but another thing I have planned in 2020. Excuse me. I'm going to give you a warning. This information is about children and this show actually is the one that got me kicked off of Facebook, but I can show it on the range. So here we go. So so I've already filled my audience in on what this sordid topic is about.
When you see what the legislators push down on us, and I think that's part of what sparked this conversation between you and I, is some information that I sent you on what's going on. I got to tell you, we get things pushed down on us when it comes to sex education that I, look at me, I'm not a squishy. I blush at the stuff.
Oh my gosh, when you sent it to me, I still haven't read it all. I sent it to my kids. I sent it to a woman who I talked about earlier on the show, because I do think it's important that we get the word out. But I felt like I was looking at something that I wasn't supposed to. It felt, if I closed it, because it just felt dirty and awful. Now, your position's not going to be jeopardized by talking about this?
No, not at all. Because so you know me for a long time. I'm real open, even on the school board. I'm very
okay.
I'm very
yes
talkative about this.
Yes,
stuff.
You're not shy. Okay, so this is called what they put this under the guise of the sexual health and HIV prevention education. Now, who can argue with that? Really, it sounds.
Sounds great. Doesn't
sounds
it?
great.
Yeah.
But what's? Can you tell us what's really going on here? Why would they be pushing this on our children?
When you actually look at what it is, okay, and it's you know as well as I do what it is. It's the California legislators that have decided that they know better what's for your kids. They know better when sex ed should kick in and what they should be taught and when. If you think about it, Planned Parenthood's been trying to get into our schools. So now you take the sex ed, and it is pure, unadulterated sex education. And you're right, the title makes it sound like, well, who would be against that? But when you see it's how to have sex in same-sex relationships. It's how to pleasure oneself. It talks about the family in ways that you and I would not agree with. We're more, I believe, I'm more of a traditionalist. So when you talk about family with me, I'm thinking male, female, and children, or what have you. And so it's taking the role of a parent at the school level, but even taking it further and saying these kind of sexual activities are fine.
And I know that the excuse that they often use is that, well, parents are uncomfortable with kids knowing this, and kids are going to do it anyhow. So it becomes our role to do it. I can't think of any subject that I would take away from a parent, but how could you go into the realm of sexuality in a way that's so off the beaten path for such young children? Some of this stuff is pre-K education that we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about the spiritual aspect of this, but what is going on in their minds that this is what they find important?
We are prudes, right? In their mind, I've been married 20 years to the same woman. I mean, if you want to include my first marriage, I've been a guy that's been married almost 30 years. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong, long term. If you've been divorced, that's your thing. That's your life. But my point is that they see that as an abnormal. Why would you? First of all, why would you have experimented and tried many sexual things with many different partners? Because that's just human nature. So telling you, that's just human nature. That's just what you want. You should be doing. You should be testing the waters and enjoying yourself, and make sure that you don't live in your little bubble of one man and one woman. That's just abnormal. So they truly believe it. You've seen some of the laws. There's the stupid straw law. They know what's better for us, and they're going to keep telling us. Now they're down at the child level. I don't know if you know this, but in California, your daughter can get an abortion at 12 years old from school, go to school, get an abortion, come back, go home. You never know what's happened. They don't have to tell you. A transgender young man or woman, at 12 years old, they can go to the school registrar and say, I now identify as a female. And you can't call the parents to check. You can't call the sociologist to check. I mean, you just have to take that child's word for it.
And you can't call them a boy any longer, or you could get in trouble.
Cannot. So I think the agenda is to push just no borders, if you would. And I give you credit. You helped me. I wrote a book. You helped me with the titles, and the very first chapter of the book is absolutes. Absolutely not. They don't want us to have absolutes. No boy, no girl, no male, no female. There's no real right or wrong way to have sex, or how many times, or with how many people. And this is truly what they believe.
Okay. And on that note, if that doesn't put a fire under your butt about no longer being a spectator, I don't know what will. I will see you next year, hopefully. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for donating. Thank you for being an American.